Hello everybody, it's your boy the Chaotic One and welcome back to a brand new video. Today I'm putting the best Republican nominee or best Republican candidate against the best Democrat candidate in my opinion, and it's going to be a bit different than when other people say. It's you're typically like, oh, Ron DeSantis, Sherrod Brown. Not for me. For the Republicans, I have Jim Justice, the governor of West Virginia, who has a good track record. Blue dog Republican turned to moderate populist Blue dog Democrat turned moderate populist Republican, excuse me, who had the best handling of COVID, was the only state not to lock down. He did do a mask mandate, however. The last state to um, get any COVID infections, had the best uh, how do I say, the best vaccination rollout when it came out, more better so than Florida, had the least infections per capita. Um, so yeah, also a good economy throughout COVID-19. West Virginia still has a pretty good economy. Gas prices aren't as high as it is in other places. West Virginia is a very beautiful place. And he chooses California Congressman Mike Garcia as his running mate, who is a right wing populist who does phenomenal in the suburbs. For the Democrats, I have chosen Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, who has a pretty high approval rating despite being in a red leaning state, a deep red state. He's probably going to lose in 2023, but, you know, he's still the best candidate as of right now. Um, he's not a progressive, but he's kind of a left wing populist, maybe a left wing nationalist type, if you want to go that far. And I am also choosing Massachusetts Attorney General Maura Healey, who will most likely be the governor of Massachusetts at this point, to be his running mate, a very popular, moderate Democrat in the state of Massachusetts, if I'm not mistaken. So I think she would be the best choice for Andy Beshear, and he would kind of need a northerner to balance out the ticket for his southernness. So let's start filling out the states from the west coast to the east coast, as we always do. Washington, Oregon, and California are safe. Hawaii is also safe. Jim Justice would probably win Alaska by around 11 points. Andy Beshear would do very well in the rural areas in Alaska. Notice how I say rural, because Alaska is weird, where Republicans do better in the urban areas in the state. It's very strange. In Nevada, this is a very, very close state. I think Jim Justice barely picks off the state, as well as Arizona, both of these being tilt margins, only being helped by Mike Garcia. Arizona would actually be lean because of the huge suburban turnout Justice and Garcia would bring out. Utah, Idaho, Montana, the Dakotas, these all go safe. All of Nebraska except the second district that goes lean. Again, suburban turnout for Jim Justice would be pretty good. Kansas, Oklahoma, those go safe. Andy Beshear probably wins Colorado by a safe margin, wins it by 13 to 14 points. He wins New Mexico by around 7 to 8 points. Again, New Mexico is a very blue state. However, Mike Garcia would be able to bring more Hispanics over to the Republican side that Andy Beshear and Maura Healey wouldn't be able to do. Texas, typically I would give it to safe to Jim Justice. However, Andy Beshear would do very well in the Texas suburbs as well as the Rio Grande Valley, due to his, left wing populist message. It really depends on if he runs as pro choice like he is, or if he's like, oh, I support safe, legal, and rare, which is translating to pro life in the modern day, which would help him in the Rio Grande Valley. However, I think Jim Justice wins the state by around 5 points. He wins Texas around there. Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee. Kentucky would be closer than normal, but it's still above 15 and above 10, obviously. West Virginia, Justice probably wins it by 50 points. He just washes everyone in the state. Indiana, also safe. Missouri, Justice probably wins the state by around 12 points. Andy Beshear, we go down to Illinois. Jim Justice would do very well. Illinois rural areas aren't that maxed out, and Jim Justice would probably do close to maxing them out in this election. He would do better in the suburb, but Andy Beshear would do outside of the Chicago suburbs would be Jim Justice's area, but around the Chicago suburbs would be Andy Beshear's area. So it would be kind of split in Illinois. I'd say it'd be Beshear plus 12, if not 13. Going down to Iowa, I think this stays likely. I think Jim Justice wins it by around 8 to 9 points, similar to Donald Trump's margin in 2016 and 2020. Minnesota is a state that's going to be stagnant for a long time, in my opinion. I think Andy Beshear wins it by around 7 points. As you know, the Twin Cities will always keep the state blue for the time being, unless there's some sort of suburban reversion in the state, which could happen. I doubt it. We go down to Wisconsin, and I think Jim Justice wins the state by around 2 to 3 points, while Andy Beshear picks off Michigan by around 3 to 4 points. Ohio, we will give that to Jim Justice. He wins it by around 6 to 7 points. This would be Democrats' last hurrah in Mahoning County, while Jim Justice would do very well in the Dayton suburbs he would get like Mike Turner turnout in the Dayton area, so he would do very well there. We now go down to Florida, where Jim Justice would probably win by around 2 points. He underperforms Trump's numbers, as Beshear would do a lot better in southern Florida, and I don't think Jim Justice would be like, oh, socialism. I mean, he might. It wouldn't surprise me if he did. He is a Republican, after all, so he would. Georgia, Andy Beshear would improve upon Joe Biden's 2020 numbers. Being a Southern Democrat, he would appeal to rural or yeah, he would appeal to rural blacks more so than Jim Justice would. Now, if I had given Jim Justice Byron Donalds as a running mate, then I'd probably give the state to him, but I didn't. So Beshear would probably do better with rural blacks, in suburban areas outside of Atlanta, and obviously the Atlanta suburbs as well. So he probably wins the state by around 2 to 3 points. South Carolina, this is going to be under 10. Justice wins this by around 9 points. Andy Beshear does very well in the Myrtle Beach suburbs, as well as the majority black districts as well, as he's very popular in the black areas. North Carolina, I think Jim Justice actually improves upon Trump's numbers. He probably wins it by around 2 points. Not that big of a deal, as he does better in the rural areas. North Carolina rurals are not that maxed out, as we saw in probably one of the reddest counties, Alexander County, my county, as it got even redder, and it can still get redder. Let me tell you, it can still get redder. Shocking, I know. Andy Beshear, he probably wins Virginia by around the same margin Joe Biden did, by around 10 points. Actually, I'm going to bump that down. He probably wins it by around 8 points, as Jim Justice would probably do a lot better in the suburbs. He'd probably get Glenn Youngkin margin in the rural areas, while Beshear would probably get like Obama 2012 margins everywhere else. Maybe Hillary Clinton 2016, Tim Kaine 2018. I'm not sure. Probably a 7 to 8 point victory for Andy Beshear. Pennsylvania, I'm going to give that to Jim Justice. Not Maryland. Not Maryland. I read Maryland. I'm going to give that to Jim Justice just very, very narrowly, which does give him the election. It really depends on what Andy Beshear's energy policy is. But Jim Justice is the governor of West Virginia, and West Virginia and Pennsylvania both have a very similar stance when it comes to coal and fracking and energy. And Jim Justice is the god of coal and energy policies. He would win Pennsylvania, albeit narrowly, but he would still do very well in the state of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania would probably vote to the right of Nevada in this situation. Of course, New York, D.C., Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey would be safe in this situation. Beshear wins it by 12. Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, and Maine's first district all go safe blue. Maine's second would go safe red. New Hampshire, I would say that's going to be tilt Democrat. Actually, it's going to be lean due to Healy. But Jim Justice would do very well with the libertarians and moderate voters in the state of New Hampshire. Andy Beshear would as well, though Jim Justice is. If you were to take a look at Jim Justice and Andy Beshear, you're more likely to notice Jim Justice because he's a big fucking dude. 6'4", large. Like, he's big. He's a big dude. I'm also a big dude. So you would probably attract more so to Jim Justice. I'm thinking rationally here, as I'm a rural person who thinks like a suburban voter. It's weird. Maine's second district, Beshear probably wins this by 4 points. Not that big of a deal. But here is the final electoral map. Jim Justice with 282 electoral votes, and Andy Beshear to 256 electoral votes. Tell me what you think down in the comments. Did you enjoy this video? Don't forget to follow my Twitter at Chaotic247. This is the Chaotic One saying, peace.